They say money can't buy happiness. But what if it could buy freedom? My name is Emily, and I was tired of being broke, tired of counting pennies at the grocery store, tired of watching rich women walk past me in designer heels while I served them coffee for minimum wage. I wasn't lazy. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, but no matter how hard I tried, I was always one step away from an empty bank account. Rent, bills, food, everything took my money before I could even enjoy it. It felt like I was running a race I could never win. I grew up in a small, forgotten town where dreams were just stories, people told to make life feel less miserable. My mother worked herself to the bone, and we still struggled. I used to believe that if I worked hard enough, life would reward me. But after moving to the city at 18, I learned the truth. Hard work doesn't make you rich. Connections do, and I had none. I worked as a waitress, then as a receptionist, then at a clothing store. The jobs changed, but my situation never did. I lived in a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a broken heater. I ate cheap instant noodles and pretended I didn't care when my shoes had holes in them. But I did care. A lot. Because every day I saw women my age living the life I wanted. Luxury cars, fancy restaurants, shopping sprees, weekend getaways. I wasn't jealous. I was confused. How did they do it? Then, one night, I found out. 2 women came into the restaurant where I worked. They were beautiful. Perfect makeup, expensive dresses, confidence in their walk. I served them drinks and couldn't help but listen. They talked about men who paid for their vacations, their apartments, their clothes. "It's not love," one of them laughed. "It's business." I didn't fully understand what they meant, but as I wiped down tables that night, exhausted and frustrated, their words stayed in my mind. Maybe working myself to death wasn't the only way out. Maybe there was another way. A week after that conversation with the 2 women, I met him. His name was Lucas. Older, rich, confident. The kind of man who never checked price tags. He came into the restaurant one night, dressed in an expensive suit, his watch probably worth more than my yearly rent. He smiled at me as I poured his drink, asked me questions like he actually cared about my answers. Most men barely noticed the waitress. Lucas did. When he left, he placed a $500 tip on the table, more than I made in 2 weeks. And beside it, his business card. I stared at that card for hours. I knew what it meant. I wasn't stupid, but I was also tired. Tired of struggling, tired of worrying, tired of waiting for life to get better. That money could cover my rent, buy me groceries, maybe even let me breathe for once. So, I called him. Lucas took me to a 5-star restaurant, the kind I usually only saw in magazines. He ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than my paycheck. He told me I was beautiful, special, different. He made me feel important. And then, he made me an offer. "Spend the night with me, and I'll take care of you." I wanted to say no. I should have said no. But then I thought about my reality, about my tiny apartment with the broken heater, about the bills piling up, about the endless cycle of working hard for nothing. One night. That's all it was. One night. And I could finally catch a break. So, I said yes. The next morning, I woke up in silk sheets, a designer handbag on the table, and an envelope of cash waiting for me. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a mistake. But then Lucas introduced me to his friends, men just like him. They had money, power, influence, and they were willing to pay for my time. One dinner turned into 2. One night turned into a lifestyle. They took me to fancy hotels, dressed me in designer clothes, and spoiled me with gifts. I convinced myself this wasn't wrong. I wasn't standing on a street corner. I had standards. I was in control. Or at least, that's what I told myself. At first, it felt like I had finally won. No more worrying about rent. No more counting pennies at the grocery store. I had everything I once dreamed of. Designer dresses, expensive perfume, a luxury apartment with a view of the city. My life looked perfect from the outside. I traveled to places I never thought I would see, dined in restaurants where celebrities ate, and drank the finest champagne. It felt like I had escaped the struggle. But there was a cost. The money was addictive. Once I saw how easy it was to make thousands in a single night, regular jobs felt pointless. Why work for minimum wage when I could make more in a few hours? So, I stopped working. My life revolved around men now. Some wanted dinner and conversation. Others wanted more. I told myself I was still in control. I chose who I spent time with. I set the rules. But the truth was, I was the one being chosen. Not all men were kind. Some treated me like a prize, showing me off to their friends. Others saw me as an object they had paid for, something they could use however they wanted. There were nights when I left a hotel room feeling empty and disgusted, scrubbing my skin in the shower as if I could wash away the shame. But I told myself it didn't matter. I had what I wanted. Money, comfort, luxury. That was the price I had to pay, right? Then, something changed. One night, I met a man named Jake. He wasn't like the others. He didn't wear a suit or drive a sports car. He was simple, kind, real. He made me laugh in a way I hadn't in years. He treated me like a person, not a prize. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something genuine. But there was one problem. I was living a life built on secrets. I told him I worked in marketing. I made up stories about business meetings and events. But deep down, I knew I was lying to both of us. If he found out the truth, would he still look at me the same way? Or would he see me like all the others did? Just another woman with a price tag. I wanted to leave this life. But the money made it so hard. And I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to walk away. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Perfect hair, designer dress, diamond earrings. I looked like the woman I always wanted to be. But I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. For years, I told myself I was in control, that I was making smart choices, that I wasn't like the women on the streets. But the truth was, I had become a prisoner of my own desires. I had everything I once dreamed of: luxury, comfort, power. But I had lost myself along the way. Jake was different. Every time I was with him, I felt like Emily again, not the girl who lived in expensive hotel rooms and wore gifts from rich men. He made me laugh. He made me forget. But the problem with secrets is that they never stay hidden forever. One evening, Jake asked me something simple. "What do you really do for a living?" My heart stopped. I opened my mouth to lie, but I saw the way he looked at me, like he already knew something wasn't right. I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to tell him I was tired, that I wanted to escape this life, that I wished I had met him before I lost myself. But I didn't, because I was scared. Scared of losing him. Scared of losing the life I had built. Scared of starting over. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the things I once thought would make me happy. The expensive bags, the jewelry, the silk sheets. They were supposed to be proof that I had made it. but none of them could fill the emptiness inside me. Maybe I could leave. Maybe I could walk away from this life, find a real job, and start over. But was I ready to give up the money, the security? Was I ready to struggle again? I don't know how my story will end. Maybe one day I'll have the courage to walk away. Maybe I'll find a way to start fresh. Or maybe I'll keep chasing the illusion of happiness, drowning in gold, but never truly free. What would you do if you were me? Would you choose love or money? Let me know in the comments.